Right, I've made videos like this in the past. This isn't a unique topic to my channel, but I really urge you to stick with me for the duration of this video because I think I've stumbled across a betting in boxing gambling angle here that I really want to explain in full and explore in depth with you guys. The bet relates to Anthony Joshua. Now, first things first, this is in no way a video hating on Anthony Joshua or discussing him as a fighter, discussing his potential. I'd like to remove all emotion, all opinion on him as a boxer, him as a man out of this. And I'd like to focus purely on mathematics, percentages, probabilities and likelihood from a gambling perspective. Now, the bet is actually one that I have kind of discussed previously on the channel in another light. I once discussed odds on Anthony Joshua to become world champion by 2020, and I made out that it was an absolutely ludicrous bet. Now, I think I've stumbled across one similar here. However, the reason this one is very, very interesting is, firstly, the time period is a lot closer, so we don't have to wait till 2020 for our return. And secondly, most importantly, because it allows you to bet on both sides of the play. In other words, we can actually bet against the ludicrous probabilities on Anthony Joshua's head. Now, the bet is available with Betfair Sportsbook. I'm not sure if that's available internationally, but it's certainly available in the UK. And for those who are unfamiliar with Betfair, they offer an exchange option where the public offers the odds, and also a sportsbook option where Betfair themselves offer the odds. So this bet can be found in the boxing section of Betfair Sportsbook, and it's under Boxing Specials. The title of the bet is Will Anthony Joshua Become World Champion by the end of 2016? And you can get 8 to 11 on him not becoming world champion by the end of 2016. In other words, if you put £1 on Anthony Joshua not to become world champion, and he does not, you will return £1 plus 8 to 11. Now, my maths isn't great, but that works out as about 75p. So you're getting 75% return on your investment. Now, I understand that it's one of those investments where you're not going to get rich quick off it. In fact, you're going to have to invest your money for 14 months in order to see a return. Now, 14 months for an odds-on bet may seem like a poor value proposition. However, if you consider what the banks are offering in terms of interest rates at present over the course of the year, it doesn't actually represent that bad a value. Obviously, you've got to factor in that with the banks, there's a much lower chance of blowing the lot as you could do with this bet. But there you go. If you're gambling, it inherently involves risks. As Dwyer would say, please take this video purely as the second opinion from a complete stranger online. Anyway, moving on. Let me tell you, and please bear with me here. I appreciate this may be a slightly longer video, but I want to tell you 4 reasons why this is such a good bet. Now, first and foremost, let's begin with the assumption that Anthony Joshua would like a world title shot today. Let us discuss what are the odds of him getting a world title shot by the end of 2016. And I think that's hugely relevant because this doesn't relate to Anthony Joshua's skill. This doesn't relate to his capability, his ability to win a world title, etc. It's a simple case of what are the chances of him getting a world title shot by the end of 2016. Now, the heavyweight boxing scene is interesting because, as we know, there's only 2 world title holders. It's not like other divisions where there are 4 champions to beat in order to get a shot at the world title. Here there's only 2, Deontay and Wladimir Klitschko. Now, we've got a 14-month time frame here for Joshua to take the belt off one of those 2 guys, or to take the belt off one of the guys who beats those 2 guys. Now, let's look at it this way. Wladimir Klitschko, let's start with him. He's recently pulled out of a fight with Tyson Fury. That fight is to be rescheduled for late November. Wladimir Klitschko is the kind of guy who fights twice a year typically. So if Wladimir Klitschko was to defeat Tyson Fury, I'd expect to see Klitschko back April-May time defending his belt. If Tyson Fury was to defeat Wladimir Klitschko, Tyson Fury has a rematch clause, so you'll expect to see Tyson Fury versus Wladimir Klitschko 2 around the same time. Now, the only sort of slight get out there is if Tyson Fury absolutely destroys Klitschko and he retires. But even though I think Fury's got a good chance, Klitschko's a very, very strong favourite for that fight. The other option is Deontay Wilder. Now, Deontay Wilder, the rulings come from the WBC today that he cannot defend his title against anyone other than voluntary challenger Alexander Povetkin. Now, as I understand it, Povetkin is fighting Mariusz Wach in November. Boxing's a tough sport. You know, Povetkin should win that fight, but who knows how that goes? Who knows if he gets a cut? Who knows if he hurts his hand, etc. There could be a fight in between. You never know if WBC allows some sort of exemption. But realistically, I think most likely Povetkin-Wilder is something that happens March, April 2016. Therefore, what I'm getting at is that in all likelihood, Wilder isn't actually available to fight Anthony Joshua, most likely till the back end of 2016. You know, even if Povetkin beats Wilder, which again is a possibility, Povetkin is unable to beat Wilder, in my opinion. Povetkin is unable to defend against Joshua till the back end of 2016. My point is, if you look at the fact that these guys are not the most active of guys, you know, Wladimir Klitschko, Deontay Wilder, and if you factor in that they've already got commitments, I think that it's unlikely, even if Anthony Joshua was desperate for a fight, I think the first opportunity for him to fight these guys is probably going to be the second half of 2016. Thus, you're taking this bet as a sort of 14, 15 month opportunity, and I think you're getting 8 or 9 months of it for free, because realistically, due to pre-existing commitments and the nature of the fight game, Joshua's not going to be able to fight these guys till the back end of 2016 because of their diaries. And let's face it, you know, Joshua's a huge name in the UK because of the promotion he's got over here. I don't think he's a huge name in the States yet. I doubt he's on Deontay Wilder's radar whatsoever for a fight. I mean, look at Deontay Wilder's track record. For me, it's more likely we're going to see Deontay Wilder defending against Steve Cunningham or against Tony Thompson than a young lion like Anthony Joshua. If you look at Wilder's entire record, it would be completely out of the ordinary to see him fight an Anthony Joshua. It's just not the sort of modus operandi he's been operating under. Then you look at Wladimir Klitschko. I mean, how many times does he fight a guy who's 14-0, a youngster? I know it happens. He fought undefeated Kubrat Pulev and he fought undefeated Bryant Jennings while they were relatively young in their careers, you know, 17-0, 18-0, 19-0, something like that. So it could happen. It could happen. And of course, if Tyson Fury was to chin Wladimir Klitschko, maybe he'd be likely to take the biggest payday, which could be Anthony Joshua at Wembley. So let me put it this way. I do not rule out Anthony Joshua getting a shot against a world champion. I think there's a possibility of that. But I think it's more likely than not that he was going to have to wait till 2017 to get himself into that position. Because I think both guys, Wilder and Klitschko, have already got mandatory obligations against fighters not called Anthony Joshua. I think they're then going to have an opportunity for a voluntary, and I just don't see them picking Anthony Joshua at present. He's too young in his career, and he hasn't had the real step-up fight to make him known on a global footing. I'm looking at this from only one perspective here, which is the perspective of, you know, Anthony Joshua wanting a fight, and will Deontay or will Wladimir decide to fight him? But let's look at it the other way. Will Eddie Hearn and will Anthony Joshua actually step up for this fight this early at this stage? And I think that's unlikely. I mean, let's not forget that Joshua himself has a commitment in mid to late December against Dillian Whyte. Now, realistically, Joshua could lose that fight. And if he does, you know, your bet is already won before we've even entered 2016. Your money is most likely safe. But let's, for the sake of argument, say he beats Dillian Whyte. If he beats Dillian Whyte, we're most likely seeing Joshua return to the ring February, March, April, depending on how quickly he does business. You know, if he drops Dillian Whyte in the first round, maybe he's back in February. Whereas if he has a tougher fight, maybe it's more like April time he comes back. But do you honestly think Eddie Hearn, the way he's built Joshua so far, Do you think he's going to stick Anthony Joshua, his big opportunity, his big, Lennox Lewis of a generation? Do you honestly think he's going to stick Joshua straight in from a Dillian Whyte fight, straight to fighting for a world title? I don't. I think there's going to be more fights in between. I would expect him to look at a Derek Chisora fight, Q1 of 2016, or a Marius Wok fight, or a Tony Thompson fight. I'd expect to see him fighting a Gatekeeper or someone of that level. If Tyson Fury was to lose to Wladimir Klitschko, how about Joshua Fury mid-2016? I view all of these as more realistic options. I'm not saying by the end of 2016, back quarter of the year, that Joshua wouldn't be ready for a world title shot. But if you look at the way that Hearn's kind of guided him and the opponents he's given him, I don't think Joshua is necessarily going to be in a position to fight for a world title at the beginning of 2016, having just beaten Dillian Whyte. I still think there's 3 or 4 more fights that Eddie Hearn's going to want to help build him and give him rounds and give him experience before one of those matchups. So there's a lot of questions there. My point is, firstly, I don't think Team Joshua want a world title shot just yet. Secondly, even if they did want it, the 2 champions are booked up with mandatory obligations, and I don't really see them picking Joshua as a voluntary just yet. He's high risk and still kind of viewed as a novice on the world stage. Now, that's just nothing against Anthony Joshua. He could be the best fighter of all time, and these are still the salient facts of the matter. He is being built slowly by Eddie Hearn, and he's not there just yet. Now, the reason I like this bet is I've given you a lot of reasons as to why I don't think the fight likely happens. But the reason I like this bet is, let's say my logic has gone horribly wrong. And let's be honest, it's gone wrong in the past. Long-time subscribers know it wouldn't be the first time I've got something terribly wrong. But let's say I get it wrong. Let's say Joshua looks magnificent against Dillian Whyte, blows someone out straight away after, and Eddie Hearn says, right, I'm going for the world title straight away in 2016. And let's say, by some fluke of imagination, one of the world champions, and there will only be 2, remember, but one of the world champions says, fine, I'm going to fight Anthony Joshua. And let's say this fight goes ahead. The reason I like this bet is because even if Joshua Klitschko or Joshua Wilder is booked for next year, you still haven't actually got a bad bet, even if we take it as fact that Joshua will fight as a world championship. I mean, if Joshua fought Klitschko right now, or if he fought Wilder right now, in my opinion, he'd be a gambling underdog. These guys are more proven. These guys have shown more capability. These guys have greater longevity. These guys, even Deontay Wilder, have beaten better opponents. My point is that I'd actually take 8-11 on Anthony Joshua to lose against Klitschko and Wilder. So whilst I don't even think he'll get to a world title shot, even if he does, I still don't think you've got a bad price on him still not becoming world champion. And I think the interesting thing here is likely, say Anthony Joshua, you put the bet on now, and say Anthony Joshua floors Dillian Whyte with a jab, knocks him out with a jab, and then and Wladimir Klitschko looks terrible against Tyson Fury but wins. I still think you'd be able to cover the bet, and I still think there'd be a way of hedging the play so that when Anthony Joshua is stepping in the ring with Wladimir Klitschko, you could put a bet on Joshua to beat Klitschko, and you could probably get odds to the extent that you break even either side of the play. I'm sure there's people wiser than me who could make reason of that. But my point is, I think you'd be able to buy yourself out of this bet if you really, really got nervous and Joshua did put in a fight. Say you staked a few quid on it now. I genuinely think on fight night you could cover the other side of the play by betting on Joshua to beat the world champion. And if you stacked your stakes accordingly, you could well be in a position where you break even anyway. So let me tell you, just to summarise, why I like this bet so much. Boxing's a dangerous, dangerous sport. Joshua could destroy Dillian Whyte, but break a hand, pull a muscle, get a cut. Joshua could get knocked out by Dillian Whyte. Either of those scenarios may mean you've already won your money. Even if Joshua is the best fighter of all time, he may not get a world title shot in 2016. He may not. Wladimir Klitschko, 2016, he may not. Wladimir Klitschko has got Tyson Fury. He may have to have a rematch with Tyson Fury. Deontay Wilder's got a mandatory with Alexander Povetkin. His typical opponent is a lot weaker and at the end of their career rather than a young lion like Joshua. If he did get a fight with one of those two guys, at this stage there's a decent probability he loses the fight. And even if you bottle it at that stage, you can probably bet on Joshua to win and somehow heads to play so you make even both ways. I really, really like this bet. It's not get where it's quick. It's not stick £20 on it tonight and wake up with £1,000 in the bank. It's not that kind of play. It's a patient, long gamble here. But I think one of the benefits of it is you can kind of watch the nuances of the game. You can look along the way and you can see how Wilder does against Povetkin, how both guys look. Does someone pick up a cut? What the rumours are about Wilder's next opponent afterwards or Klitschko's next opponent afterwards. And if you follow it closely enough, you can probably bet both sides of the play. In all likelihood, I think Joshua Dillian Whyte is a tough fight for Anthony Joshua, and I wouldn't be surprised if he actually lost that fight. And I'd still be picking one of the existing world champions over Joshua at this stage. So I think it's a really, really interesting bet, and I'm keen to hear people's thoughts on it. Once again, it's 8-11 on Anthony Joshua not to become world champion in 2016. I've given you my thoughts on why this possibly represents value. Of course, with gambling, there's always a risk. You could lose everything. Let me know your thoughts. I'm unsure what people's feedback are as to these kind of videos. I'm not sure whether people appreciate the gambling and boxing videos or if people really want to just hear boxer analysis. I discuss it because I find it an interesting puzzle to crack, but I want to produce content that people want to watch, so do leave a comment below, let me know your thoughts. I've been chatting now for 17 minutes, so if you've stuck with me for the entirety of this video, thanks very much, I do appreciate it. All the best.